maybe not quite doing R&D.
The ones are a little bit more.
Especially like the late outline, like part of their.
I would say either a developer or for some reason I started.
Okay, guys, come this way. Guys in the back, come this way. Can you guys scoot? Guys, scoot. What's on? Guys, scoot. We'll make room for more people. People in the back, come towards.
Yeah, come on.
Everyone pretend to like each other. Do you mind people behind you?
Guys, scoot in the back.
I've done like 200 media interviews, so I actually can't talk that loud. So, but I'll do my best.
Squeeze in. Come in front. We'll get a bigger space next to it. Don't do this. Come. Guys, can you set?
You guys want to move forward to the front here? So we want more people.
Yeah.
Come on.
Taking up the minimum space. Yeah, we could have 3 people in the front. Yes. We have 4 people in the back. You guys are not going to see right here.
You sold the place.
Push it. Squeeze. Make friends. We have more space in front, guys. The people who are on your phone in front.
Guys,
Squeeze in. Squeeze in here.
Rachel.
Squeeze, go further in. There's more space over there.
Come on.
Sitting on top of people's heads.
Decentralizing. Okay, we have space over here. You guys can come in.
I think we need a bigger boat.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people here.
Yeah, thanks for all coming.
Yeah. Do you guys want more people? Okay. There's space. You're gonna be. Who wants to sit? Who wants to sit if there was a seat? Okay, who doesn't want to sit if there wasn't a seat? You want to sit? Come over here. You want to come over here? Come on. You can fill it up. You're a big guy. What?
Right here.
Yeah, we're here. Come here. Yeah. Should everyone say hi to their neighbor? Hi. Okay.
You got 2 more orchestra seats right here too.
Maybe it's a balcony.
Yeah, that's right, balcony.
Do you guys want to do a panorama? Who wants to do a panorama?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to do a panorama. Panorama. We can't even fit all of you in Google.
Android panorama.
Oh my god, it actually worked. I was so surprised. Whoa. Oh, we can do full. Oh. Full 360.
You're definitely coming out wonky.
The AI will fix it in post. Okay, so thank you guys all for coming out tonight. I hope you had a good time so far. I'll just explain a little bit about like what is this if you're wondering why you're here. If you're not, and this is Decentralized Science New York City, and it's basically like a monthly meetup for people that are interested in the intersection of science and blockchain. And so what is decentralized science? It's how to fix some of the problems in science and to incentivize science, so using like the blockchain. So if you wanted to contribute to a research project and you could then get ownership over your contribution to that research project. And in my opinion, this is sort of the future of how science is going to be done. So instead of science being done just in like an academic setting, you could it'll be more decentralized and more people will be contributing to the project, and they'll also be incentivized. So you won't have to be stuck to doing research in a university, which will be great. So we started this thing. You guys should follow us on Twitter, on Instagram at DeSciNYC, and on Twitter. Tag us. It really helps us. We also post our events there, so that's fantastic. Here's our next event. I'll hide this here. If you guys, the title's wrong. but it's a secret what it'll be. You have to go there to see what it's about. But that will be our next event. It'll be in sort of the beginning of March. So if you guys want to take a picture, you can take a picture. Oh, and then sorry. Does anyone have any questions about decentralized science or this event? No. Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Are we getting a bigger space for that?
Definitely. So that's a great segue. And if you have a bigger space, we're always looking.
Yeah, you can have a 9,000 square foot apartment. It would be helpful.
If you have a bigger space, or you would like to participate in the planning of these events, or you would like to participate in the funding of these events, because right now it's just me paying for it. So if you guys want to decentralize the funding, we're very happy. Yeah, so if anyone is, who here would be interested in helping out with like future events? Okay. Okay, so send me an email. I guess I should have put a thing there. Oh, that's a mistake. So my email is mfischer1000@gmail. What? Is that bad? What? Oh, mfischer1000@gmail.com. What? Or you could also just Twitter. You could also just you could DM us on Twitter. So there you go. That's much easier. That'll be easier. So if you wanna sponsor it, or if you want to help plan the next one, or if you have a space, we're always open. Okay. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our esteemed guest for the evening, Aaron. He is the founder of the Enhanced Games, which we will talk about. Do you want to give a little background also? You have a pretty interesting history.
Well, that's what people say when you have a controversial history.
Uh-huh.
My name is Aaron D'Souza. I have a PhD in intellectual property law, and I'm a graduate of Oxford University. After Oxford, I led Peter Thiel's litigation against Gawker Media, involving the wrestler Hulk Hogan, where we won the largest invasion of privacy judgment in history. Thank you for the clap. It's the subject of the best-selling book Conspiracy by Brian Holiday, a Netflix documentary, and a forthcoming movie starring Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It's pretty cool. Yeah. After that, I've built and sold 3 companies, mostly in the fintech asset management space. I founded the Chief of Staff Association, which is the world's peak body for chiefs of staff. And now I run the Enhanced Games. It's like a complete departure from a life of boring finance and venture capital, which I've been doing for the last decade. Influencers used to always tell me you only need like one good tweet and it will change your life. I'm like, that's cool. Oh, is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not a very robust thing to say. But it's absolutely true. Like, I now believe in the power of social media because we made one tweet. This is the very first tweet we made. It was called The Fastest Man in the World. It got 9 million views on Twitter in 24 hours. Balaji Srinivasan, who was our first investor, reached out to us via DM. I've never even met this guy. We did a deal within an hour, and it's just gone from there. So one tweet can change your life.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us about what is the Enhanced Games?
So the Enhanced Games are the Olympics for the 21st century. So this is the 3rd instantiation of the Olympics. So the first is in ancient Greece, a pagan festival bringing together the city-states of the ancient Hellenic world. That was reinvented in 1896 by Baron Pierre de Coubertin, who is a racist French aristocrat. Read up about his history, it's not quite pleasant. And he said that he reinvented the ancient Olympiad.
You should probably sit just so you're on camera.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, sit on camera.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can't hear me, I'll stand up. So he reinvented the Olympiad for the modern era, for his era, an era of colonialism, nationalism, and every 4 years. And, the Olympics kind of works, but it really doesn't. It's bankrupted several countries, like Greece after the 2004 Athens Olympics. And there were 2 statistics that really stood in my mind. 44% of Olympians admit to using banned performance-enhancing drugs, according to the Olympics' own research. Yet only 1% get caught. And at the same time, 50% of America's Olympians live in poverty. Yet the Olympic officials are earning millions. They're flying around in private jets. The Olympic president actually lives in a palace in Lausanne, Switzerland. And I thought, something is wrong here. right? You have this system of exploitation and of corruption, and it has this fundamental lie at the center of it. And so I just said, you know what? Let's create the enhanced Olympics. And you know what? It's taken off like wildfire. It's become a global media sensation. You know, I've done 200 media interviews in the last 3 weeks, 3,000 news articles. We had 300 million impressions on social media. We have a documentary film deal that we're going to be announcing on the 18th of March. At the end of March, we'll be announcing that we've raised a giant sum of money, like an unbelievable sum of money for this. Yeah, so it's all coming together beautifully.
Did you see Icarus?
I did see Icarus.
What did you think of Icarus?
Well, you know, I always think that...
Icarus, and explain what Icarus is.
So Icarus is about the secret doping regime orchestrated by the Russian Federation at the Sochi Winter Olympics. And so the fundamental principle that I believe in is, to borrow a line from the abortion rights movement, my body, my choice. So that an individual with free and informed consent should be able to do to their own body what they wish. And I think it's very hard to disagree with that, particularly if we're talking exclusively about adults. And the problem about the existing sporting apparatus is that the use of performance-enhancing drugs is happening in secret. It's happening, you know, in the proverbial garage and in the darkness. And we want to shine light upon it and take that out of the dark alley and make it something open and honest and transparent, which we think that can fundamentally improve the human condition. So our overall strategic aim and the mission of the Enhanced Games is to enhance humanity. It's not to enhance sport or athletics, it's to enhance humanity as a whole. Because the technologies that are going to be used to make athletes jump higher and run faster are literally the same compounds that will make everyday people live longer. And I come from the position that aging is a disease that we should be able to treat, cure, and eventually solve.
Got it. So so how do you get to this goal that you want to get to cure the human condition?
Well, you know,
and how does the Enhanced Games?
So if you asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd say the hardest thing to do is raise money for this. But then, you know, influencers say you need one good tweet. I actually say you need 5 good tweets, and we're probably on number 3 now. So we announced that Peter Thiel had invested in the company. Then that went like wildfire across the internet, and that's, I think, why I'm here today, because you probably saw that tweet. And 50 VC funds have inbounded us as a result of that. And I can't even take all the meetings now. And so we basically have infinite capital coming in. But then, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said the biggest challenge is finding athletes, right? Finding, you know, world-class athletes who can come and break world records. And the most amazing thing happened, right? We did not stage this at all. I was sitting on my couch in London at about 11 p.m. and within 10 minutes, I get 300 WhatsApp messages. Every journalist in the world messaged me, and they said, "Did you see what James Magnuson just did?" And I was like, "Oh, like what is he talking about?" And this Australian swimming hero, 16-time world champion medalist, Olympian, 6'7", 105 kilograms. This guy is an icon of Australian swimming. And he went on national radio, and he said, "I will come and compete at the Enhanced Games if they put up $1 million to break the 50 freestyle world record." Mm-hmm. Juiced to the gills. And I, you know, this is 11:30 at night. I was ready to go to bed. So I'm sitting there in my pajamas. I'm like, okay, great. I cut my hair, put a button down on. You know, I have like basically a Zoom setup, and I have like a TV studio in my house because I do so many of these interviews. So I turned on all the lights, went live on TV in Australia. They patched James in, and live on national TV, we negotiated him to come and compete at the Enhanced Games. And it was the front cover of every newspaper in the country for the next 2 days. It was an amazing story. And as a consequence of that, it's a snowball effect. You know, it was hard to get the first investor, now I've got all of that. Hard to get the first athlete, now we've got thousands lining up. And so what's the next step? Well, you know, we're in broadcast rights negotiations. That's why I'm here in New York. I'm talking to the top people at all the biggest broadcasters in the world. They are lining up for this. and they're putting offers that would blow your mind in terms of the revenues that we are going to bring in. And so we are now capable, I think, of building one of the greatest sporting events in the world, because we have the dollars, we have the athletes, and we have the scientists. And the first enhanced games will be in 2025. And even today, right? So it's like I can't even. It's like I'm almost like living a dream. This moves so quickly. Like everything I'm talking to you about has really happened in only the last 3 weeks. Today, the International Olympic Committee issued a statement condemning us. Shock.
Yes.
Shock. But in that statement, oddly enough, and if you're recording this and streaming about this, this is my statement to the world. The IOC said, we hope that the organizers of the enhanced games, with their immense capabilities and financial prowess, will come and join the Olympic movement. And we were like, what are you trying to suggest? That we give you money? Or that you like buy us out? Or something? It was the weirdest overture. And I still haven't properly digested it. Like why in an official statement, which was clearly approved by the highest levels of the Olympic Committee, they would have that particular wording in it. So, it's just such an exciting journey.
Cool. So the athletes are going to come to your games juiced to the gills.
No. So let's be very clear. You do not have to use performance.
It's an option.
It's an option.
Got it.
But we want everyone to do it openly and under clinical supervision.
Got it. Is there a way to cheat in the enhanced games?
There's always a way to cheat. Right?
What would cheating look like?
It's the human condition and the human potential for imagination is limitless. But however, what is such a powerful force in the enhanced games is that we are paying all the athletes. So we're paying them a base salary, at least $100,000 a year, and we're paying them prize money. And so one of the reasons why cheating is so pervasive and the use of performance enhancement is so pervasive at the Olympic Games is because if you win a silver medal or you win a bronze medal, you're effectively a loser. You get no endorsements, you don't get anything. It's only the gold medalists who get the attention. And so athletes they're not cheating to win, they're cheating to survive because they earn so little and they're pushed to win. Versus in our case, paying base compensation means that there's less incentive to cheat. And paying longer term based compensation because, obviously as Charlie Munger said, if you show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. And that payment of base salary is so important. So, so many people are so excited about this. They're like, oh wow, the steroids Olympics. But adding in compensation for athletes and creating a fair compensation system will, in my opinion, drive as much world records as as performance enhancements. And so I think it actually becomes very simple. We can talk about the infrastructure delivery model, how we're going to do this much cheaper, how we're going to do this in a profitable way, but it's very simple. If we break the world records, the 100-meter, the marathon, the mile, the 50 freestyle, who's going to want to watch the old slow Olympics, right? What broadcasters, fans, sponsors, host cities, venues are going to host the slow Olympics? Do athletes want to be the fastest natural man in the world, or do they actually just want to be the fastest man in the world? And I think the latter is true, and if that is the case, we've claimed crown jewel of international sports and framed the discourse so it is about the future, right? So sports right now, the Olympics, it's all about the past. It's all about ancient Greece. It's about history, right? We have a completely different model. Our whole model is about science. It's about technology. It's about progress, right? And I know what all of you believe in, right? Which side of the equation do you sit on? Do you believe in the future, or do you want to be stuck in the past? Questions?
Do people want to be stuck in the past? Or okay, so you talked about like the goal. Can you say a little bit more about how you hope that this will contribute to longevity? How you hope it'll contribute to science?
Oh, it's very simple. When the first person breaks the 100-meter world record live on international television, probably watched. I think it could be one of the most watched television events in history because the 100-meter final is generally one of the top 50 events generally in the like sort of history of television, but this is so much more, right? I think this could be up there with like the moon landing. Where were you when science got unlocked?
But how does it contribute to the science?
Well, let me get to that point. Because the minute that happens, and we break the world record, the first question everyone is going to ask is, what is he on, and how do I get it? Right? I'm serious. And I look at the advent of products like Ozempic. Right? Ozempic is an amazing drug, but why did it add $500 billion to the market capitalization of Novo Nordisk? Because it was a social media phenomenon, right? And so the compounds that are used for performance enhancement are well known, they're well documented, and many of them are FDA approved, but they're just taboo. And we're breaking down that taboo, and we're creating a whole platform infrastructure for innovation. Mm-hmm. And that innovation is going to be so public. And scientists, like many people in this room, will say, you know what? I want to come and compete at the Enhanced Games, or I want to come and contribute to this athletic science. And you know what? If we break a world record, we get a gold medal, athletes are going to say, you know what? Thank you to my doctor. Thank you to AstraZeneca for developing that amazing new compound, whatever, right? And I think it's going to just set off a whole new era of science because public perceptions will change so much. And sports is the greatest form of marketing that has ever existed.
Got it. And what in the perfect world, what in 5 years, what is the Enhanced Games?
It's the dominant sporting event in the world. So the reason, so I'm a long-term entrepreneur. I've invested in dozens and dozens of companies. And when I was going to embark upon something this ambitious, one of the reasons I picked it was because the Olympics only happen every 4 years. So it's very, very hard for them to pivot their business model. I can say this, right? I'm saying this to you, Thomas Bach, president of the International Olympic Committee, right? It's so hard for them to pivot their business model. They're governed by committees. They have all this outsourcing, so the host cities organize most of everything. And so they can't change the LA 28 Olympics. Maybe they could change the Brisbane 32 Olympics, but that's 8 years from now. In 8 years, we're going to be the dominant sporting event of the world because I think it will take us 2 years to break world records. And then more sponsors, more dollars, more viewers, deeper in the cultural zeitgeist, right? If myself and my 3-person team, right? It was three people 3 weeks ago, it's like 20 people now. Can with one tweet get 100 people in New York City to like come to a meetup. Imagine what we can do when we have broken world records. Hundreds of millions of people are watching it on the biggest platforms in the world. So cool. I think we're going to really inspire a belief in science that isn't presently in the common consciousness.
Got it. Yeah. All right, let's do some audience questions. We'll start here and keep it short, and I think we're gonna have a lot of questions, so everyone keep it short on both sides.
If we go with F1, a lot of F1 technology went from seen on TV kind of trickled down to
technology fusion.
Yeah. Do you see that with the Enhanced Games into modern medicine?
Yeah.
And how where's the friction there, and how would that be implemented?
Well, the challenge of modern medicine is FDA approvals, right? And it is a highly bureaucratized system. So what will be so powerful about the Enhanced Games is we already have a large fan base, but it's going to be a fan base comparable to, I think, the New York Yankees. The religion of the modern world is sports, right? We live in this, we've lived for the entirety of human history. We've had a religion, and now we live in this atheistic society. And so what fills that gap? Sports and pop stars, in my opinion. And so we're going to use the power of our fan base, who are going to be very motivated and engaged, to push for regulatory change, right? So it's really hard, for people in this room saying, we need to overcome the bureaucracy of the FDA, we need structural reform to our society, but we're going to unite that audience through the power of the magic of sport and of social media, with the capital structure of capitalism, and that will help us accelerate social change because we can evoke policy change. Because policymakers are concerned about money and voters, right? We have a compelling financial model, and we can bring lots of people to bear upon the regulatory changes we want to see in the world.
Okay, Julius.
Yeah. First of all, super interesting idea. I would ask, what about the risk in terms of how athletes pick whatever performance-enhancing drug, whatever pharma company backs them, or vice versa? Do you see like some sort of team building happening? For example, different pharma companies only sponsoring certain athletes, and then maybe thus gaining a competitive advantage over other groups of athletes. And it's not going to be about the athlete anymore, but who sponsors who.
Well, so I think there's a version of this where this evolves into something like Formula One.
Exactly.
So Formula One is a combination of the athlete and the engineer, and this would be an athlete and the scientist working together. And Formula One, of all the sports, has the highest corporate sponsorship values because it's the most effective marketing for automobiles. So like, I want to buy a supercar. I think, I'm going to buy a Ferrari or a McLaren, not a Honda, because they're a really bad Formula One team. So in the same way, I could see big pharma or biotechnology companies or universities sponsoring teams. Because it wouldn't be so cool to have Team Stanford versus Team Georgia Tech. And I can tell you that Team Georgia Tech is probably going to be Team Stanford. So
we live with our brain, not with our brawn.
Yeah, exactly. The new brain and brawn are the enhanced gains. But that's actually right. It's a combination of brain and brawn.
Got it. But you're doing sports games. What are the 5 first games you're going to be doing?
The 5 sports means events. So track and field, swimming and diving, gymnastics, combat sports, and weightlifting. And those are all individual sports, so it reduces the logistical complexity of having teams. However, I was with Peter Thiel on the weekend, and he was like, "Oh, you should add chess." And I was like, "Well, how would performance enhancements help in chess?" Because of course there are neurological enhancements, things like Adderall, which are actually technically banned in chess, and there is in fact drug testing in international chess. But he was like, "Oh, well, actually steroids really help because if you're like really big, you look like really threatening." And actually, the best chess players are actually like very physically intimidating. So I was like, "Okay,
I stick to online."
Yeah, I'll take that under consideration." Yeah. So
okay, Michelle, you can go.
Oh, okay. You mentioned that you're going to be paying the athletes a competitive salary and providing clinical support for how they can obtain the performance-enhancing medications. Are you also providing them with healthcare benefits and the use of those clinicians after the competition to decrease their doses and get to normal?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And actually, I've spoken to over 1,000 Olympians, and the ones that care the most about healthcare are female American Olympians. It never occurred to me that like Team USA athletes don't have health insurance because they're not employees, right? And many of them flip burgers at McDonald's or stack boxes at UPS to get health insurance. So yes, it's subject to obviously the insurers being on side. We will be providing health benefits. Because it's really compelling to female athletes in particular.
Got it. Also, guys, don't forget to tag on us on Twitter and Instagram. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, tell the international community.
Take out your phone, take a picture, and tag it.
At IOC Media.
So you guys got to do it, otherwise the events don't go as well. So take a picture, tag it. I'm gonna be a little forceful. Give you guys a second. All right.
Okay.
And then who took out their phone and wants to ask a question? Okay, in the red. There we go.
Yeah, how did you get the idea for it? Like, sort of, where were you? It's just such a
So,
funny idea.
So it's come in many ways, but actually I was in Miami renting a house last winter, and I just noticed that everyone was a bit better looking in Miami. They were all kind of enhanced, and I was flipping through. I was flipping through Instagram Reels, and I saw this video of a bodybuilder asking people in the gym if they were natty or not, and I actually had to go on a written dictionary to confirm what this meant. And then the next time I was at Equinox in Brickell, where there's the international meeting place of enhanced people. I walked around the gym and I actually went up to these really jacked guys and I was like, "Oh, are you natural or enhanced?" And what surprised me is that they were so open and honest about the enhancement regimes that they were using, even though some of them admit using some like banned or illegal substances. And so I thought to myself, that's really interesting in how a social cultural shift is happening in real time because of social media. And then, it occurred to me that, cannabis 20 years ago was a banned substance, right? And now it's like perfectly normal.
So are steroids allowed? Are gene therapies allowed? What is everything allowed?
Everything that's clinically supervised and FDA approved. So that's step one, because the limits are it's unlimited. Like we can talk about like Neuralink, BCI implants, AR goggles, like Vision Pro helping a javelin thrower, bionic implants. And so I've even had robotics companies come to me and say, can I build a robot to compete at the enhanced games? And I say to them, well, you can't build a car, but could you build a 6'3", 220-pound, bipedal humanoid robot that could run 100 meter in 9 seconds? And actually, that's very hard, right? And so I think on a cultural standpoint, I think I'm the oldest person in this room, which is, I used to be like a wonder kid. Now I'm just an adult. But in 1997, Deep Blue, the IBM supercomputer, beat Garry Kasparov. And most of you probably were not born then, but it was such a seminal moment in the history of technology, and it calls us to question our capabilities as human beings and inspire us in different ways. And I think the enhanced games will do the same thing, because eventually I'd love to see a robot run the 100 meter, or do the pommel horse, or the high jump. And these are actually really, really hard things to do, and it will cause a sort of a Cambrian explosion of innovation.
Can I bolt on wheels and put a jetpack on me?
Maybe one day, if we can create a rule set and formalize that.
Got it.
But that wouldn't be the same world record as the natural world record. We have enhanced world records for pharmacological enhancements, and then we'll have mechanized world records too.
What about, in the Olympics, in the Paralympics, some of these people are amputated, have an amputated leg, and they can actually run faster because they have these carbon fiber things. Is that allowed?
Yeah, so we have actually had
20-foot stilts on me and just sort of do
So it's actually, we've had this fabulous response from Paralympians because they see themselves as enhanced. They understand the mechanical and engineering feats that have allowed them, in some cases, surpass able, I think that's actually the wrong term, able athletes. So yes, we want to explore all of these possibilities slowly over the years of the games, because I say the Olympics are like an opera. It's about the past, so this nostalgia for history. It's always the same. Old people like it. It's very expensive to go to. And we're like a rock concert, right? We want to be like Taylor Swift Eras Tour. But, the next time Taylor goes on tour, it's not going to be the same thing. It's going to be something different. And every instantiation of the games, we want to improve upon the technologies, break more world records, and demonstrate that science is progressing.
How do you think about cis and trans people competing, and what are your categories?
Oh, great question. This is what journalists always ask us, but they're like, oh, we're going to stump him. So I'm going to use my words really carefully here, because I know there's a lot of sensitivity about it, and I'm gay myself, so as a member of the LGBT community, I understand the sensitivities. So the standard critique is that someone who was born a man has an insurmountable biological advantage over a natural-born woman. And I accept that critique. But trans people are actually enhanced human beings because they use science to transform their bodies, and in fact use large amounts of hormones that would otherwise get them banned from Olympic competition. And so the real question is, could an enhanced woman compete fairly against a trans person who is already enhanced?
So are the categories men and women, or the category, how does the category break down?
So presently the aim is to do it men and women, because
by identified,
and we believe that enhanced women could have an equal playing field against enhanced trans people.
Got it.
And that stands to be proven, and if that's not the case, we can change the rule set, right? Because again, we're not ruled by committees. right? We can't pivot every 4 years. We can change all the time and respond to circumstances. So if you have any feedback about that, tweet at me at Enhanced Games, and I'd love to hear it. You guys get your hand up all the way back there.
Thank you. Will be the pharmacological and training protocols open from the beginning of the training?
Oh, so it will be openly disclosed.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. So we believe very fundamentally in healthcare privacy. Every individual is entitled to healthcare privacy. And, you know, as we know from like the COVID pandemic, you know, it was pretty dicey to tell people you have to disclose your vaccination status, for example. And that really undermined confidence in science. At the same time, there will be strong commercial incentives for athletes to disclose their enhancement regime, because it's effectively, they're endorsing a product, right? And so we want to balance those two things very carefully, but by and large, we want to make this as open and as transparent as possible so that everyone can become educated. And we actually believe we will make the Olympics cleaner because the scientific research that we will do on performance enhancements and the data that we will generate will be published and can lead to the development of better drug testing that forces the Olympics to be cleaner.
Hi. So obviously the athletes are going to be great, and it's going to be so fun to watch, and I'm just waiting for it. But one thing I'm thinking about is, how about the bad effects of like drug promoting? Because now taking drugs.
What about the children? Is that the question? Yeah. What about the children?
Now it's going to be so cool.
So I would analogize it to Formula One once again. So you'd say, oh, all these fast cars driving around the racetrack, doesn't that give a bad influence to young people and encourage them to drive recklessly, particularly young men? And the evidence is actually that's not true. It encourages young men to respect the craft of motorsports and actually inspires a lot of young people to pursue engineering careers. And so at the same time, I think what the Enhanced Games will do will encourage the respect for science and of medicine and of clinical supervision, and encourage our young people to pursue much needed STEM careers. So I hope young people watch the games and say, you know what, I'm going to become a doctor, or I'm going to get a PhD, or I'm going to become a pharmacologist, and really say, there is a career pathway here, and use your love of science and technology all wrapped into one.
So some of my questions have been answered already. I'm going to answer a very simple one. I noticed they made a lot of progress on this. Have you and your team have been scouting for, like, especially since it sounds kind of American-centric, which location that ideally you would want all these activities to happen?
So that's a great question. So I haven't talked about infrastructure. So the core risk of the Olympic Games, the core criticism of the Olympic Games is they build a dozen stadiums and then they throw them away after 2 weeks. And it's literally the most wasteful exercise that any government or country can undertake. Thank you very much. A lot of journalists love to say, oh, the Enhanced Games is the Olympics plus drugs. But we're reinventing the format from a blank slate. And part of that means we don't want to build infrastructure. And that's how we're going to save so much money. We're not going to build like a stadium and then throw it away after 2 weeks. Like, how dumb can you possibly be? And so the most likely outcome is that this is distributed games, right? There are like our great swimming facilities in Australia, wonderful track and field facilities in Eugene, Oregon, great combat sports facilities in Las Vegas. And because of the magic of television and social media, we can present one integrated broadcast package. And it also means that we won't overwhelm the city, right? We don't all need to go to, Los Angeles, book out every hotel room, triple prices, whatever. The distributed aspect could actually make it a lot more efficient, and then we're not building any specialist infrastructure. And then we allow more people from around the world to participate in the games as fans and as athletes.
Go ahead.
Will the athletes exclusively compete with the Enhanced Games, or is there a world where they're also at the Olympics?
That's a great question. We are very open. I don't think the Olympics are very open about that. And I assume that the International Olympic Committee will ban athletes who compete at the enhanced games. However, I want to be very clear. Number one, natural athletes are welcome to compete. And we hope that athletes that are still within the Olympic drug testing regime do come and compete, because it'll make for really dramatic television. Imagine you say, you know what? All you dopers are cheaters, and I'm going to beat you because I won the genetic lottery. And actually, I think that's actually kind of unfair, right? You know, just because someone won the genetic lottery doesn't mean that they should get all of the glory in the world. Like, shouldn't we be able to use science and technology to level up? But, you know, I'm open. I'm fine. It's not the Olympics that aren't. Are you listening, Thomas Bach?
And you'll provide the 100K salary to the natural athletes as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. If they qualify, yeah, great. Please do.
Go ahead, Ari.
First of all, I love this idea. It's kind of like the live PGA rivalry right now. Like, I love to see like DeChambeau jacked up and just like crush a long drive right now. But as somebody that's in the medical field, FDA approvals on medication get revised all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you're kind of playing with somebody's gonna die from this. Let's be honest. Like, you feel guilty about that? Like,
no.
you're basically someone's gonna die off of
No.
this.
So, our goal is to be the safest sporting event in history. So let's be very clear. Drug testing is about fairness. It's not about safety. So the drug testing regime is designed so that Lance Armstrong can't use the super steroids when every other athlete doesn't have access to them. And if we're going to talk about safety, let's be very clear. Professor David Nutt of Imperial College London in 2012 published the definitive survey of the risk of all controlled taboo substances. And there's a wonderful graph, look it up, David Nutt, 2012, published in The Lancet. What is the riskiest drug in terms of all-cause mortality, social costs, and economic costs? Alcohol.
Yeah.
What's number two?
Sugar.
Heroin. Right? And then all the way at the other end of the graph, what's the lowest? Psychedelics. Psychedelics are, and then the third lowest is anabolic steroids, right? So if you actually want to talk about the risk, right, it's, you know, and I have this conversation at dinner parties with rich people all the time, while they're having a glass of Chardonnay and they say, this is so unsafe. So Olympics have a fairness system. We're going to create a safety system. And what does a safety system mean? We do blood work, echocardiograms, MRIs on all of our athletes, and then we assess them to make sure that they're healthy to compete. A full system health checkup. So if you have an enlarged heart or other significant risk, we won't allow you to compete. Because, you know, I'm trying to build one of the world's greatest sports properties. If an athlete has a heart attack at the first event, this is all over, right? This has to be safe. And we have a world-class clinical advisory board who are designing this, and we have such support from the scientific community. And let's talk about health again. The Olympic Games, you know, IOC President Thomas Bach and his cronies have slagged me off in the media saying this is so unhealthy, right? Who are the two longest-serving Olympic sponsors in the United States?
Coca-Cola, McDonald's.
Exactly. Coke and McDonald's. The two organizations that have done the most damage to public health of any organizations in the entirety of human history built their brands on the back of the Olympics. So don't lecture me, Thomas Bach, about health. And show up to the debate I've been challenging you to.
Go ahead.
What combat sport will you be hosting in the first games?
That's a great question. Probably mixed martial arts, because that's the most popular, and boxing. And to be clear, UFC gave a particular finger, to the drug testing authorities with Conor McGregor, and they moved out of the Olympic drug testing regime and created their own one, which is basically non-existent. So, you know, this is a much larger movement in sports, except, you know, we were the first people to have the balls to just like do it openly and publicly and honestly.
Go ahead.
In addition to the clinical supervision that you described, the EKG, the blood work, who is writing the prescriptions, and what legal protections do you have for if physicians physicians are the ones writing prescriptions. What legal precautions are in place to protect them?
Great question. Lawyers are all working on that. You know, that is actually more of a question with insurers than with the statutory regime. The statutory regime doesn't really address this. And let's be clear, you know, we always talk about FDA approvals. So the FDA approves the safety and the efficacy of drugs, but they do not regulate the practice of medicine. That's down to the AMA and other self-regulatory bodies. And let me get this right. I think 26% of all prescribing in the United States is off-label. And something like 80% of all pediatric prescribing is off-label. So there's this huge gap between what's going on with the FDA and what's going on in the practice of medicine. And think about something like Ozempic, the wonder drug of the moment. Its on-label usage is for diabetes and people who are morbidly obese. But 85% of people who are prescribed Ozempic are being done so off-label. And so the statutory regime isn't quite there. This is really more of a conversation with the insurers, which we're working through at the moment.
Go ahead.
Are you also working with anyone to regulate the betting of this?
Oh, yeah, the betting of this is going to be extraordinary. So yes, that is an important revenue driver that the Olympics leaves out. And as you know, sports betting has really taken off in the United States. And actually, I know we're getting close to time, but I do want to say one thing. I'm hiring a team at the moment, mostly based in London, possibly some people based here. In particular, I'm looking for a chief marketing officer and also a spokesperson. Because I've been turning down nearly 100 media interviews a day, because I literally, you know, have to run a company and I can't like talk all the time. So if you know anyone who is an amazing CMO that wants to build one of the world's greatest sports properties and can get some equity at a Series A price now, you know, let me know. You're all welcome to email me, Aaron, ARON, @enhanced.org. Personally.
How many questions do we have? Let me just get a feel. 1, 2, all right, we can 3. Okay, go ahead.
Hats off on finding something that we all watched. And nobody
By the way, don't forget to tag. Post. I need to hype you guys. I need to, we need to, you guys do it.
Yeah,
Who did it? Who did it here? One. Who else? Only one person? Guys, we need to do better than one.
Yeah, come on.
Can more people do it?
There's CMO right there. There's a CMO right there.
Who's going to do it?
He'll do it. So anyone who tags gets an interview to be the CMO.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Tag. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Aaron, I was saying hats off on finding something that we all watched and nobody knew was still in Philippines.
Yeah.
You know, I run a longevity clinic with a couple people here, and so downstream, we're all cheering for you.
Oh, thank you.
For our business.
Yeah.
My question is actually, it evolved over time because you spoke about it. What is the governing body that will decide what juice is allowed to go in the gills? Because FDA is one organization in one country. I'm guessing this is a global event.
Yeah.
Then you spoke about robotics. You spoke about,
So fundamentally, the core problem is that, why do the Olympic athletes earn nothing, yet the bureaucrats earn everything, yet tons of money flows into the system? It's all this huge waste of the sports federations, governing bodies, the leagues, the National Olympic Committees, etc. We've taken a machine gun to all of that. All of it will be decided by the enhanced games, by myself and my colleagues. And we can have an efficient decision-making structure so that we can respond to changes in the market and develop a whole new rule set to inspire the world.
That line's going to be constantly shifting. So
an
interesting part of your business.
Because we believe in the future, right? And the line should always be shifting. Let me just check. My brother is messaging me.
Who else has a question? We'll do 2 more.
Again, thank you so much for having this conversation. I have a question on the DeSci longevity front.
Yeah.
So, as you know, Brian Johnson he's spending $2 million a year, and he has all these equipments for analyzing the biomarkers for every kind of type, whether it's his general longevity part, the skin, and everything. Do you think that if you were to add such equipment and then showing to all the billionaires that are 50 plus that using specific parts of enhancement drugs can actually improve some biomarkers and completely change everything? Because any type of negative feedback that they may have, if they have a proof of biomarkers being improving, then it will be even revolutionary.
And like there's Peter Thiel led our participated in our seed round. He's participating in the A, and many billionaires have reached out to me to be involved in this project. Why? Because they want access to the science and the medicine. But that actually comes to a really important point, and that's about equality of access. So I believe that everyone has the right to be enhanced. But you don't have to be, but you have the right to be able to. And right now, we can see a very clear almost speciation happening in places like Miami and Los Angeles, where you see like hot, rich people, right, who have access to spa treatments and Botox and Ozempic, and poor people who do not. And I don't want to end up in a world where the amazing technologies that we develop are only accessible to the very rich, to the billionaires, the celebrities, and the athletes. I want to ensure that technology is available to everyone, because artificial intelligence is projected to add $13 trillion to the global economy over the next 10 years. For every year we can reverse aging by, that adds $64 trillion to the global economy. And the number one issue that we face in the Western world is an aging population. And we have no idea, policymakers have no idea how to solve this. Their solution is unbridled immigration. That causes all sorts of social and cultural issues. But imagine we had proper anti-aging technology, and the economic drivers and productivities that can create are going to be immense only if it's accessible to everyone. And that is one of our core motivations of the Enhanced Games.
Wait, how do you do that? The pharma is going to set up the pricing for everything.
Yeah, but we're going to be the world's preeminent pharma marketing platform, right? We're going to be communicating these products to market and have a huge fan base. Like, regulatory change is needed in the pharma sector, right? Who's going to do it, right? Well, maybe the athletes and our millions of fans, we can do it together, right? We're like, this isn't a business. This is a movement. We are creating a movement of people who believe in the future, who believe in technology and believe in science, and of course that takes regulatory change.
Right, but there's a movement of people with diabetes, and they fight for lowering the prices for years.
Yeah, they're not very well organized, right?
So that's the only.
Yeah, and like you actually have to be like why does the subway not work in the city? Is because the subway users haven't revolted against the MTA and the corrupt union that runs it. And someone needs to wake up and do that. And unfortunately, there's only one Aaron D'Souza. If someone can invent some cloning, then I could have more time to really build these projects. But ultimately, believe in the power of one person to organize. Right? It only takes, and this is my theory of social change, which I might end on, but I'm happy to chat with you guys one-on-one until my brother gets here, is that my theory of social change is very simple. Change only happens when someone puts a suit on and goes to work every day trying to solve a problem. And so I get thousands of people who have written to me and said, oh, I had the idea for the Steroid Olympics. Oh, I saw that on Saturday Night Live. My friends and I talked about it at the pub. Good. But did you put a suit and tie on? Did you go to work every day? Did you risk your name and your reputation and your money to do so? Right? And it takes focus to make change. And I think you could change the pharma system. You could fix the subway here in New York. You can fix any problem. But you actually have to dedicate time to it in a really professional way. You have to sit at a desk from 9 to 5 to make any change a reality.
Okay. Good. Agreed. Who has a question? Just all right. Three. Do you guys all ask them at the same time, and then he'll answer?
I mean, I follow bodybuilding since the early '90s, and a lot of athletes have passed away. What are your I guess countermeasures to?
So when you take your drugs,
they abuse them.
Yeah.
A lot of them abuse them. So.
Yeah. So when you order your drugs online and you inject yourself, that is unsafe, no matter what you're taking. And so clinical supervision is the route to safety. And one of the reasons I came up with this is because I was at a pool party in Los Angeles, and everyone was on steroids. And someone came up to me, this was 15 years ago, and he was like, oh, can you not afford steroids? And I was like, I'm a very successful venture capitalist. And the person who said this to me was actually an endocrinologist. Then I had this very deep conversation, and I then realized that people in the medical field actually support this, right? And it's actually just so hard for them to convene and be open.
You have large hearts. You have clogged arteries. There's a lot of stuff that's gonna come into play here.
Yeah.
And I don't see. I hope it doesn't happen, but I see maybe a death or two. I mean, these are hard drugs. I mean, that's why steroids. I mean, I wish I want to invest in enhanced games, but I don't want something like.
I don't want it to happen either. Yeah. It's good high quality clinical supervision that will ensure safety.
Okay, go ahead.
What's the process for ensuring athletes won't use illegal drugs if there's no drug testing?
If they don't use illegal
drugs, yeah.
Well, so we have a safety testing apparatus to ensure that their biomarkers are all within range.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the most important. And then the illegal drugs that are probably most likely to be used are those that are like stimulants. Right. So someone is going to do 10 lines of cocaine before competition. We don't want that to happen either. And so the solution to that, and of course the risk people are working on this, is accommodating all of our athletes in hotels. So put them like on base for sometime leading up to the event and after the event to ensure that they're always monitored and behaving correctly. But again, base salary, healthcare, before and after the event ensures compliance, because if they're not compliant, then they lose that benefit, right? And so we will always want to have them to have that safety net.
Go ahead.
What's the most likely reason this will fail? I mean, your confidence is very inspiring, but I think what's keeping you up at night?
Hiring a great team, right? It's unbelievable. I get like 4,000 emails a day, and yeah, it's just I need to hire a great team. So I'm sure there are people in this room. So send me your CVs, and I'd love to build it. I'd love for you to help us join what we're building.
Any other questions? Okay, well, let's thank Aaron. Do people have ideas for other speakers? Do you guys like the very technical things? Do you guys raise your hand? Where did you ask, technical or fireside chat? Raise your hand if you like the one we had 2 times ago, with the brain, the focused ultrasound. Who likes that?
Technical stuff? Okay.
Okay. And who here likes the more side by side accessible science? Raise your hand. Okay, so pretty 50-50. Interesting. Okay. Good. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you guys for coming out. This has been great. Make sure to get in touch with Aaron if you would like to work with him. If you'd like to tag us, tag. And yeah, thank you again. And we'll just continue enjoying.
Yeah, I'll be here for another 15 minutes. I'd love to chat with anyone.
Oh yeah, DeSci.NYC. DeSci.NYC is where you
Lay off those steroids.
Yeah, thank you.
Love that. In a few, I'm definitely not going to need to. Oh, yeah. I'll be here, but I've got 2 events coming up that I have to do. Eat 10%. Yeah. It's just not easy for me to get the hair back, but I will be able to do it. I'll definitely see you around. Thank you. Find me. Right now, I'm at
At the time, and then at the time, I know like financing.
Super easy. Oh, I've been doing Irish for years. Yeah. So, he told me. So we had dinner last night. He's like, yeah, I'm coming this tomorrow and we mentioned DeFi. I said, well, he's taking to my back and I don't know about it. I said, I need to know.
Jamie's the guy. That's what this is. Oh yeah,
helping positions so connecting to crowdfunding, right? So that's one product. PYUSD, not the PayPal thing. But for years we actually financed it. But like none of the other things. So like certain things no, so I was describing according to him, it's too many things. It's not that smart.
You have a good handle on it. We're still waiting for their products.
Yeah, they're going to have a place on the mountain cheese and they'll be fine. And Chad has tins on the side waiting for it, so if need be. No, I want to take it to my public. Because we one or two IPOs and they're fun. I actually want to be the one. So there's some paths there.
That sounds actually kind of super. That sounds like incredible.
It's got to be super validating too, right? It starts to finish
Maybe I'll try.
Does the desire just come from like the complexity of the challenge? Is that feeling that you can challenge?
And then just there's no bigger financial stake. Right. So you think about a national Olympics, right? It's like there's no bigger stake today. Super Bowl.
So if you think about like finance from a strategic angle, then an IPO is like the biggest.
For sure it is, right? I mean, it's the biggest like unveiling and coming out party of financial. That's changing, right? But it's one past the other. It's like I've been very consistent with venture fund and PE fund for the past 4 years. So there's a chance they may dive deeper there. We built Garden City. So it's a very unique model. They buy even on certain old companies. Blue collar team. It's a very, very small window.
They have a lot of those industries.
So like this year we're getting 34%. Yes. So because these companies are all with the and they typically have business doesn't. So, but the business has to run. Like, it cannot be, we're not buying the joint itself. We're buying it with actual investments. Yeah. And then we use the investments. We don't do the fire page, but we do the tech on it. And we so there's obviously some Florida's a market. So we own the largest terribly run company. It was but like there's millions. Why? Because they don't fucking Florida. They can be retarded and they're still going to you start to put a real salesperson and real tech in a database and see around simple, like the weekend. That's what he wasn't doing. Right? So that's like, you find some of those that's an even better ROI.
Sort of like stage mentoring. Everything, right?
The next party,
Mine was very much interesting. We were able to get some I'm excited to drink the rest of this.
Hold it to the dark side.
Maybe I'll like
I saw the ladies with the glass of gas and toast. I was actually super positive, surprised and impressed by the Instagram, each that's actually how we give it a chance to connect yet. I usually like stay in touch on Instagram, email. Probably until the weekend.
Like you must try it.
Well, actually, I was thinking to invite you on Thursday because it's men's day.
Oh, that sounds good.
I've been going for about 6 months. Usually about a dozen guys. It's Friday, I'm DJing at the Ruben, which is right next door to the I might go to Brazil next week.
like 80% maybe. She said she's going to come here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just gotta check with my team. Did you meet Nick? Yeah, he was at the Maxwell thing. But I guess you guys were both busy, like, you met my brother Matthew, yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna check in with Nick and make sure there's nothing that I need in the house. But I have, like, I have a DJ gig that Saturday the 2nd and then Sunday the 10th. So I would, like, probably leave that Saturday morning and come back that following Sunday morning. Yeah, I've never been to Brazil, and my friends want to show me around São Paulo, and maybe I can. Yeah, I mean, plane ticket, round trip paid for, and I can stay at her house. São Paulo is a big city. It's not really near the Yeah, so jungle is definitely fun. Yeah, the only thing that I would be skipping is that my shine is coming back that week. But you know what, not just for the ceremony, a week and a half ago. I don't feel like I need another one.
Tomorrow, yeah, I'll leave them at
If the constraint was like isolation, then I would be like West Village or maybe Chelsea. Chelsea was like good trade-off, maybe, but like. Okay. What's your Instagram? There's no way you're the best of
monitoring and helping them achieve that. And yes, and very AI. And once they finish that, they'll populate all the combinations and make them very strategically and very specifically.
I love to work. I've been looking for more data projects. More like data platform engineering to have like, how do you make all this stuff more useful for right now? Right now,
I am so thrilled with the entire platform.
You know what? I'm down to collaborate. I love making new projects because I'm a very big believer in facility. So, I'm a big believer in open data, so I like to build like things where everyone
that's a thing.
everyone to participate, but also everyone to benefit from it. having this like practice like forwards and gamifying these like metrics examples. We have a bunch of people that do professional cycles, hobby cycles, and they say, hey, how do I compile? I want to track my metrics like VO2 max, VO2 max.